On this week's episode of Devil's Trap Podcast, total werewolf domination!
And I had a bad day and I want to yell at some Nazis. So let's do this.
Welcome to this week's episode of Devil's Trap Podcast. I'm Diana.
I'm Liz. I don't know what voice Diana was doing there.
It kind of sounded like it, so I just leaned in.
Okay.
Season 9, episode 12, Sharp Teeth. But first, what have you been up to, Liz? You've got stories.
I think I have stories. You know, it's almost spooky season. I guess it is spooky season. It's spooky season every day. But we are official fall. The equinox has happened. And last weekend was the third annual Paranormal Fest at Victoria's Black Swan Inn, put on by the Curious Twins, Fred and Steven, who are awesome. And they had a VIP and a VIP Plus thing this year. And on the VIP Plus thing, they went on we had a true crime bus tour. And that was exciting. So my friends and I got the Plus so we could do this tour because they'd never had that before.
Cool.
And the tour went through murder sites in San Antonio. But the thing is that, you know, I mean, and I do love me some true crime, and I fall asleep to Dateline, but these were very recent. And some of them were still unsolved. Some of them, the trial still hadn't happened. Oh. And when you're visiting murder scenes that are really recent, it ups the creep factor in not the spooky way, in just the am I an asshole? Just, you know, with some, and some of them were
to someone's
am I a spectator of somebody's grief? And some of them were domestic violence issues, you know, and there was one like this, there was this park that may be related to, like, they think it may be like a grinder murder thing, which is, you know, all it's very fascinating. But then they were like, and you should come to this park. It's really nice. So you just told me 2 people were murdered here within the last year. So I am pretty sure this park is no longer on the places I'm going to visit list.
Yeah, that's not.
I may not fit the profile of those who were murdered, but that doesn't mean I want to go hang out in this park. Anyways, so it was an interesting addition to the weekend, because otherwise, you know, then we went through and we did just a tour of the property, and I have toured that property with these guys before. So nobody new died on the property since the last time I was there. So the stories were the same. And it's fall, so it was 100 degrees, and
because Texas,
and the house that this place is at is a very old house and has no air conditioning and a severe lack of fans. So I don't give a shit about ghosts if I'm going to sweat that much. I'm sorry. Like, I don't care. You could have full apparitions in front of me at that point. But I also
you're like, whatever, where's the fucking AC?
But I do want to see the ghosts because they bring the temperatures down, right? And so that's I'm like, true. You know, it's like, if you can pop up here, can I do some seances just for some sweet, sweet air conditioning?
Yeah, I mean, that tracks.
I think so. So that was great. And then Saturday was the day where they have there was also that night, there was a smaller spirit communication where people were actually being like, there was a medium there who was talking to people, to their spirits who are around them. But that was at 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock at night. And by that, I was in bed. I was home. Yeah. Because I could not stay up that late. I was
bedtime.
My friends went and they said it was a really good experience though. So Saturday was the day of mainly the vendors are out there, and I got there's always really good artists and people who go out there for these things. So I got some good art for some friends like Diana, who is also getting a giant cowboy ghost shipped to her, and that ghost is huge, and I had to figure out. So, anyways, so Saturday was vendors and talks, and I think the talks were okay. And Diane and I were talking about this before the podcast. It's just, I think I'm very academic when it comes to the paranormal. And obviously, if you guys listen to Laura at all, you know my stance on this stuff. I love the spooky, but I am a skeptic. And because, I think healthy skepticism is good. And so sometimes the woo-woo stuff isn't for me. And some things got I don't even know they were too woo-woo. Things got too religious for me. And that wasn't my jam.
Yeah.
But
that's very specific, I'd say.
It's a very specific thing. So, but there was a couple, there was a cryptozoologist there, and I do love I can't remember his name right now. But he what?
Nothing. Go ahead.
Oh, but that he talked a lot about the Bear County Bigfoot and some chupacabra stuff. So that was always I love some crypto. So it was good, and I'm glad that we got to do that. And Curious Twins are doing some more seances and investigations for the next couple of months. They have a lot of things. They're doing a lot of cemetery tours and other things stuff, which is kind of fun. I didn't know they were doing those things. So
that was cool.
Yeah, so that was my weekend. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, have
we talked since you went to Nashville? I don't think we recorded.
No,
I mean, we have talked.
We have talked. No, I just got back from Nashville. It's my annual trip for Americana Fest, put on by the Americana Music Association. Anyways, but yeah, I went out there and hosted a party on a rooftop. It was hot. It was real hot. Everybody was very tired, but it was an amazing fucking party, and we had a really good time.
So the theme of this week's episode is Liz and Diana are sweating a lot.
I'm just gonna say, and I wasn't even in Texas, but it was. It's a little more humid in Nashville than it is here. But anyway, so.
It was humid as fuck. I'm in San Antonio, so I don't know. Like San Antonio is Houston level. They've said we are now as humid as Houston.
Yikes!
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Well, yeah. So no, but
I always
it was
wanted to be.
And I saw a bunch of really great music and put on some good music and had a good time overall. It just wasn't. Usually it's wild and crazy, and I saw 5 million bands, and this was like chill. I went to bed at reasonable hours, and I still saw a lot of bands, but it was not wild and crazy.
Maybe you're growing up.
No, I didn't.
No, I don't want to grow up. No,
I'm very sad about. I did not get to make one specific stop that I was very sad about, and yeah, and I ate at the hotel way more too many. Not that the hotel's food was bad. There's a lot of good food in Nashville, and
there is. I understand that. If you go to a city that has a lot of good food, you want to go out and sample it. But also sometimes it's nice just to have your hotel bring you food.
It is, and that hotel has robes in the room. God, I love a room with a robe.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like you're just like snuggle here. But anyway, so yeah, no, it was a really good time. I'm tired, and now I'm trying to think. Like my next 6 weeks are very busy, but good busy, and I'm just gonna keep telling myself it's good busy so I don't lose my mind. Yeah, that's what I got.
Cool. So you're ready to talk about sharp teeth?
Sharp teeth,
not shark teeth. Those are
sharp.
very good. Those are different teeth.
Those are very different teeth. Sharp.
So yeah. It was season 9, episode 12, first aired January 28th, 2014, was directed by John Showalter, who we last saw in this season opener, I Think I'm Gonna Like It Here, last season, Freaks and Geeks, Man's Best Friend with Benefits. It was written by Adam Glass, who, did Party on Garth, and he also did Freaks and Geeks and As Time Goes By and Southern Comfort last season. So very much, people who are familiar with our main dude of this, I would say all star of this episode. So we start off with our recap, and of course we've got Gadriel and Dean being like, I need some alone time.
Yeah, Sam's big mad because he was lied to and violated by Gadriel. Dean's sad face because he's a liar.
Because he's toxic.
Anyways, the Mark of Cain, and we get a little teaser of Garth. So, our episode opens in Grantsburg, Wisconsin.
Jeez.
At night. And we hear yelling and gnashing of teeth. Gnashing. I didn't know that word. She used to describe it. I was like, what word? How would you describe this? Anyways,
mastication.
Masticating. That's a good word too. On a farm, and some dude runs out with his shotgun and is shooting at a person who's running from the farm. And this person runs through the woods. They get chased. They get hit by a fucking car, because that's what happens if you get chased in the woods. And it is Garth on the ground. So Garth has now been chased off someone's property and hit by a car.
Oh no.
So the next day at the hospital, Sam flashes his badge, his FBI badge, not FBI badge, to be clear. And
he's not just flashing people.
No. Sam
is not walking and exposing himself.
He is not. And he's looking for the John Doe, an Ichabod Crane looking, which I found amusing. But
it is amusing, but I have so many questions about this.
I do too.
So many questions. What?
How?
Okay. What? No.
Anyways,
and so
Dean's already there is the long and short, but they both heard about it on the police scanner.
Well, and they're like the police wire, and like, what the fuck is the police wire? There's no such thing as a police wire.
Especially not for some dude getting hit by a car or like some random ass
what,
shit.
You saw some John Does for no. This isn't a thing that exists.
This is not a good enough tie-in for them to have found Garth, and both ended up there. Especially because apparently Sam's was in New Mexico. Like, how the fuck? This makes no sense how they both ended up here. Glad they both did. Makes for a good story. But it makes no
We're
sense.
glad they're here. Granted, this is an episode about werewolves, and I'm saying I don't believe that you did not. So... But, whatever. Yes, it's just not believable, guys. Anyways, so...
Garth's unconscious.
And Dean has a large syringe.
A very large syringe. Garth's unconscious. And basically, they're trying to figure out, what to do. And Dean's like, oh, I'm going to shoot him up with this giant syringe of adrenaline. And Sam's like, WTF, are you trying to jumpstart him or kill him? And he's like, well, we need to know what happened. He walked out on Kevin, and on us.
I'm sorry, I may have missed this when I was kicking my hat self or hitting my mic, but did you not mention that Garth is being charged with killing a cow?
Oh, no, I did miss that. I have not mentioned that yet.
Yeah, so that was in this part too.
Yes, it is.
In this thing here.
He's handcuffed to the bed because he killed a cow.
Yes. So that is why... And we were like, what? And then we're like, okay, so he was killing, okay, following.
And then instead of shooting him with this giant fucking cartoon syringe full of adrenaline, Sam just slaps the shit out of him, and Garth wakes up screaming. And he looks to see Sam and Dean and asks if he's in heaven.
But, he's very confused. He knows who they are, and then he just needs to puke.
Yeah, so they get his cuffs undone, and he's like, well, I know I was on a hunt, and, y'all just need to go back to whatever you're doing, but hold on, I gotta go throw up. So he runs in the bathroom to puke a lot. And while he's puking, Sam and Dean are going to talk about Gadriel, and Sam tells Dean about the residual grace.
He's like, Gadriel left something inside of him. At least Dean is on the same path with me, that this all has been very sexual. Gadriel left something inside of him, and then Cass took care of it. And it's all just gross and Teen Mom.
Yep, that's what Dean's like, gone for 2 weeks, and you're like an episode of Teen Mom. Ugh. But then Sam's like, by the way, what's that on your fucking arm? And Dean's like, oh, it's just from Kane. And
just
Sam
blows this off. It's
Sam's
just,
like, the wrestler?
Market...
He's like, I wish that would be awesome. Anyway, so he explains.
It's just like blowing off the Cain.
The Cain. Cain
and Abel from the Bible. You're just that like, one. Sam is just like, la da da, no big deal.
Like, no follow-up questions, really.
No follow-up. And also,
he says he does, but.
Yeah, and just I think he's more interested in the fact that Dean worked a job with Crowley than the fact that he has this new this sick tribal brand on his arm.
His new frat brand.
His new frat brand for his Delta Sigma, whatever. So, anyways, while they're doing this, they realize that it has gotten far too quiet.
Yeah, Garth has now. What am I talking about? Garth has snuck out the window of the bathroom. He's gone. And so they run outside and they're like, where the fuck did he go? Why would he run from us? And they're like, well, I don't know. We didn't know where he was for 6 months. So who knows? And then his hospital gown is on the ground and he is gone. So Dean's going to go look at the security footage while Sam goes and talks to this farmer / cow rancher whose cow Garth apparently ate.
Well, I mean, he's probably a dairy farmer because it's Wisconsin.
That's true.
But so this owner is telling Sam, we get to this farm, and the owner tells Sam that he's got, basically he had chickens and he had goats, and that's what they were going after. And now he's just completely prepared to kill somebody over this cow. Yeah. Because that is how you escalate.
Yeah.
Clearly, you need to die, sir.
Yeah. So he's like, yeah, and the organs of the animal are ripped clean out. And he's certain it has to be devil worship.
Must be.
Must be.
So Sam calls Dean to tell him about the cow, who I will not call Bessie for obvious soon reasons.
And they're like, well, I guess he's hunting whatever killed this cow. Because obviously that has to be what's happening, right? And Dean has a printout photo from the security footage of Garth in his boxers getting into a station wagon very clearly. He's telling Sam he's lying. And he's like, well, if he wants to be gone, he's gone because he's a hunter. So I guess we just lost him. So whatever. You go your way. We don't really need to worry about this anymore. And Sam's like, nah, and shows up and looks through the security footage.
Well, I mean, the thing is that Dean is lying to Sam, and Sam is there. And it's like, you can't lie to me. Like, I can see the fucking photographs in your hand. Yeah. Stop! You're lying to my goddamn face now, and just stop it, Dean. Like, are you just obsessively lying now? What the hell?
Well, he's just trying to get rid of Sam, and so the picture is of Garth getting into a station wagon on the passenger side. And Dean's like, I told you we can't hunt together for your own good. And Sam's like, I hear you, but we'll find Garth. And then we're going to get to the bottom of this first. So they're going to go to Bess Meyer's apartment, who is the owner of this car.
And she lives in the next town over. Mm-hmm. And once again, this episode is just about people being excessive. Yeah. And they don't knock. They just burst through the door, guns out. Yeah.
And Garth is standing there packing a bag and saying that he can explain. And they're like, where is she? Because there's a bra laying around. They know there's a girl. And after Garth tries to be like, no. And a blonde chick with fangs pops out of the closet and grabs Sam. Garth is stopping Dean from shooting her. Sam cuts her arm. There's guns pulled. Anyways, Garth steps between them and basically doesn't want them to hurt each other. And Dean announces that she is a werewolf.
Because her claws have been growing and she is a werewolf. But so am I. Da, da, da.
No, Garth is a werewolf.
Garth is a werewolf. That's where he's been.
What the fuck? So we cut to Garth kindly, gently bandaging Bess's cut on her arm and insisting to her that Sam and Dean are his friends. And she's like, yeah, but they're hunters. And
why does he talk to her like she's got like
a child?
Yes.
A child? Yeah, he talks.
She seems like she's a capable person.
She seems like a very capable woman, and he talks down to her. And Bess is his beloved. This is his wife, apparently. And Garth gives his assessment of Sam and Dean, which I did find amusing.
Yep. But TLDR on that is Dean is a teddy bear and Sam is insecure.
Pretty much. So he's like, yeah, so here's what happened. 6 months ago outside of Portland, Maine, I was hunting a wolf. I took it down, but it bit me. I messed up. I know there's no cure. I accepted my fate, and I ate my favorite dinner, and I was going to watch my favorite movie, and I was going to eat a bullet. But Bess found me, and we've been married for 4 months.
Because she smelled him.
Yeah, she smelled him. That's how she found him, and her pack has taken him in.
And they're a good pack. They don't hurt people.
Yeah, which is extra hard for someone that's bitten instead of born. What?
And Dean also gives Garth shit for going Wolverine on a cow. But seriously, Dean Winchester, how many cheeseburgers have you eaten?
This is true.
You've eaten a lot of cow. I don't think you can judge anybody on this.
That's a very valid point. That's like his primary food group other than pie.
I think so. Yeah.
Anyway, so they're all like, what the fuck still? And he's like, Dean's like, Garth, we need to talk to you alone. He's like, no, really, this pack is clean. And he's like, well, she just attacked us. He's like, yeah, because you fucking busted into our apartment with your guns out. What the fuck do you expect?
And your jawlines and your hair are also very intimidating. I do also want to say that it's a very important addition to this lore now that we have werewolves can be born. Yes. So, and this kind of goes back to our alpha shit though, because all the alphas were bitten. I don't know.
Does it have to be two wolves, or can it be a wolf and a human? What if we have a wolf and a human? Is the baby wolf or human?
I don't know. So
we need some genetic.
We do need some genetic werewolf, talk here. CRISPR some wolves.
So they go to this super country. So Garth wants Dean to come pray with them. So they go to this real house out in the country.
That's never a good thing. I'm sorry. No diss on your religion, but it's just not going to end well if that's the first thing. Usually,
you never know.
But small town. We'll see how this works out. I'm suspicious.
Well, Dean's pulling up to this country house. While Sam's at the sheriff's office, and they're talking to each phone together. And Sam now has his beautiful 72 Dodge Dart Demon, and it's bright blue. Dean gets a bunch of weapons from his trunk. Hi, trunk. It's been a minute, right?
Yeah.
So he's just arming himself to the teeth to go into this house, and while Sam waits to talk to the sheriff, and he's creeps up. And you can hear them singing hymns through the door.
So today I learned that song is, and I learned it because of the captions on my on the show, that song is bringing in the sheaves and not the sheep.
Oh, I thought it was sheep.
I thought it was sheep, but apparently it's sheaves. It's like the wheat sheaves, I guess, like a chaff or something. But I always thought they were bringing in sheep. Nope.
Which I think was funny because it's like wolf in sheep's clothing, layers.
Wolves and sheep. And I always thought that was what they were. I always thought it was really funny, and that's not what they were saying at all.
No, good to know. I'm sure we're not the only ones that thought that.
Nope. But Garth is accompanying this, and he's got a little flair on his piano playing. And having met DJ Qualls, I was going to throw that in there. We are best friends after all. We had drinks and all,
Obviously.
Also, he does have very long fingers. So I can see him being a very good pianist.
Good pianist.
Yeah.
Good pianist.
Don't make it dirty. I saw you. You did.
No, it's the word. It's not my fault the word sounds dirty. I didn't make the word up. But the woman that answers the door is Joy, who is Garth's mother-in-law or stepmother-in-law, because she is Bess's stepmom.
And this exchange is just very awkward.
Very. And we've got our patriarch, who is our Reverend Jim Myers. And this is Bess's dad. And this house is full of wolves. There is children. There are adults. There's some real sketchy looking cousins hanging out, eyeballing everybody. It is
they all
the whole
look very
family.
Judgy.
Yeah. And the Reverend's like, hey, I'm going to introduce myself to you. But Dean won't shake his hand. Garth makes the excuse that he's got a crazy fear of germs. And Reverend's like, hey, look, I get it. Hunters and our kind don't really get along. Don't have the best history. But, you should, we're not unlike. You should eat with us. Let's have a meal. And Dean says, why would I do that? Which is just fucking rude.
Yeah, I don't.
It's too much.
He's too rude. And it's too.
The handshake in that, I was just like,
Yeah. So.
Anyways, so at the dinner, and here's the other thing too, is the reaction. I get like the whole thing is the minister's gonna be super nice, but if somebody's that rude, you're still not gonna be like, come on, man. You're gonna be like, fine, bye.
Yeah, get the fuck out, man. I don't care. Like, I don't need to bend that. I don't need to bend over backwards for you that much.
I extended, but there we go. So at the dinner table, everybody's sitting there to eat, and everybody gets a very, very, very bloody plate of meat. Except for Dean, who has a cooked steak.
I think there was a couple of other people who had like cooked food on their plates.
Well, they all had the sides, which were cooked.
Yeah, I think somebody else had the.
And then they had pie for dessert.
Yep.
So you'd think Dean would be happy, but no.
You would think, right?
He's just real rude about watching everybody eat, which I also thought was interesting. They all ate very differently. This was my weird observation because, like, they're sitting at the dinner table, number one. So it's kind of weird, like, what are they... So when Garth was eating the cow, was he harvesting it or was he eating it on the fly? So because when they were sitting there doing this, like the Reverend is using a knife and fork. And then Bess is like tearing off eating with her hands, but using little small bites. Whereas the cousins that are real creepy cousins, these two boys, they're like holding it with hands and just like eating like full fisted these organs and chunks of meat. I thought that was interesting.
I hadn't thought of that Garth may have taken the organs for somebody else. But
or brought them back
and brought them back for them. Yeah, but I guess
dinner.
You could also just go to the butcher shop and buy them. So there isn't really that need. But I hadn't thought of it that way.
I don't know. I thought it was weird. And then we noticed that the Reverend has a bullet on his necklace.
Yeah. So one thing too before that, Dean, while he's being really judgy, was asking them why they didn't say a prayer. And the preacher says that they're more spiritual than religious, which I think is a weird thing for a preacher to say.
It is, especially when he runs a church and then he's like, oh yeah, we're like the American Indians. It's like nature and man are one. But you have a fucking church.
You're a preacher.
It's very weird.
That's a strange thing. Okay. Anyhow, moving on.
Yeah, and they notices all of them are wearing these bullet necklaces and asks why they're all wearing silver bullets. But he says werewolves wearing silver bullets, and I like that Garth corrects him and says we don't use the W word, we prefer lycanthrope.
Yes, it is a better word. Yes, please call them lycanthropes.
But Beth says the bullets are a reminder that we are not indestructible and of our fragility. And yes, it burns, but only a little.
And it kind of makes sense, right? We're not invincible. These are the things that can kill us. And it seems like a good thing.
Yeah. And then the Reverend tells the story about Bess and her mother, because Bess was born a lycanthrope. And he said it was the best day of his life. And then a hunter killed his wife. And he wanted revenge, but realized that wasn't the answer. He decided to look forward. And shortly after, he found Joy, his now wife, not happiness. Yeah. And then she raised Bess as her own. She's like, and he was so lucky to have found her and blah, 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 brought together by the universe. And she's like, but her daddy, Joy's dad, apparently had a hand in it too, as he was the previous reverend of the church. And she is a 4th generation werewolf. Which is
pretty impressive. And I mentioned this, I have this in my notes later, but I'm just going to say it now. It really bothers me when grown-ass women use the word daddy. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's not good. Don't do that.
I think that's weird. Yeah. So Sam is talking to the sheriff and asking him about Reverend Jim and the fam. And he's like, yeah, they're kind of new agey and hippie, but they're clean. They're pillars of our community. And why the fuck is the FBI asking around about them?
I mean, that sounds like something every cult says.
Fair. And Sam's like, oh, I'm more into murders and X-Files type stuff. Any of that go on? And sheriff's like, no.
No, Mulder, go away.
Yeah. Back at the house, Dean is now excused himself from the table and going through the fridge while everybody's eating dinner still. Like, what the fuck is happening here?
I don't know.
This is so disrespectful to Garth, and that's what I don't like.
Yeah, I don't like that he's disrespectful to Garth. I also just don't understand why all of his meat is open in the fridge.
I know nothing is covered in this fridge.
Nothing is covered.
Why is it a bunch of uncovered
And the only
plates?
thing is, it's like, there are times where I have had meat uncovered in my fridge because I want to dry it out, and I do that 24 hours before I put it steak into an oven on if I'm doing a slow sear, because it dries out the moisture, and then I get better salt in it. And I get a thumbs up for that.
Even the studio knows to give that a thumbs up. Yeah, no, I've done that like before. If I'm like if I'm getting ready to cook something,
but it's like
otherwise, no, you
a
cover
steak
that shit
for like a day, and I really get concerned about it like taking on other flavors or other, there's a lot of things.
Throw up about that. Well, at this point,
I'm not sure. I know I have frozen. Can you hear me still?
I can still hear you though. Yeah,
I know. I think I just like the picture that it's frozen on. It's pretty good. I mean, we can continue.
If it's working,
no.
Give it a shot. I made a note just in case. So we are. He looks up from the fucking fridge, and now we have our two creepy cousins watching. And he's like, "Oh, I was looking for a beer."
Which seems like a plausible reason for it to be in the fridge. I'm like, yeah, I want to get a beer.
All right. So these creepy ass cousins are like, the sooner you realize all's good here, the sooner you can go. Which is not like reassuring at all. At all. But anyways, Garth's going to come into the kitchen and run them off and call Dean out. And Dean's just like, it just can't be this good, blah, blah, blah. And Garth is like, what the fuck? I found love in a family. Why do you care where it comes from or how this works? Like, what the fuck? And Dean's like, I do.
Well, and he gives him shit for disappearing. And that's when we realize that they haven't told him about Kevin.
No, that's the upset. This is upsetting. And that's what it dawns on it. He's like, what? I was embarrassed. I thought of, I was thinking of and missing you guys. And then Dean's like, oh, fuck. You see it like Dean's eyes dawn like, oh, shit, Kevin's gone. And when he needed me, I wasn't there.
Yeah. And Dean's just not nice in his explanation and blah. So.
Yeah, it's stupid. All right. So we cut to Sam and Dean standing outside the country house, creepy, with their cool cars, just standing there looking at the werewolf house. That makes everybody really comfortable.
And Sam's just like, can they just not be a friendly family of monsters? They exist. Yeah. We don't have to kill. Remember, you don't have to kill every werewolf, Dean.
No. And so they're standing there like, what the fuck? And then the sheriff calls Sam. And he's like, yo, you got to come meet me in the woods. So they go to the woods, and the sheriff's like, you wanted weird? What tore up that deer? Nothing from these parts.
I'm like, it's just a fucking deer, like on the side of the road. That looks like any deer that I've seen got hit by a car.
Yeah, doesn't look weird. But they get in close to it, and Dean's like, this is really fresh. And he's like, it's still fresh. It's still warm. So it died after we got the call.
That's not what? No, Detective Winchester. You cannot, or medical examiner Dean Winchester. You don't know when that deer fucking died.
No, he doesn't. But either way, the sheriff's like, you just couldn't accept that all was good. Move on. And he's going to shoot them. So Dean throws a knife at him.
This seems like a thing they could do all the time. Can you just throw knives at people? This seems like maybe you don't need as many bullets. It seems very effective.
Very efficient. Yeah. Effective, efficient, unexpected. All those things. And so he's dead. And they realize that he's also wearing one of these silver bullet necklaces. But this bullet says Ragnarok on it, which is from the Norse mythology, referencing the end of days.
Oh, so you're going to explain Ragnarok now? Are you taking lore?
That's all I got.
All right.
No.
It's also a movie with screaming goats.
It does have screaming goats. And they're like, what the fuck? We need to find out what's going on here for real. I thought we knew what was going on. And Dean's like, oh, we already know enough. And he's
what the fuck, Dean? Slow down.
Sam's like, what the fuck? We're not going to kill Garth. Dean's like, fine.
I guess, fine. I won't kill another one of the people we love.
Yeah. So Dean's going to go to this chapel because now he's going to go investigate the church. He's decided. And while Sam goes to grab Garth, that's their plan. Going to go grab Garth. No big. I'm sure he'll appreciate that. So, while Dean's breaking into the back room of the chapel, Sam realizes that Bess and Garth's apartment has been ransacked and they are gone. So, but then Dean finds a really cool book in the back room.
It's got a paw print on it.
It's a leather-bound book, and it has a paw print.
And you expect it's going to have pictures of puppies in it? Because that's what goes inside those things.
Yes, it is. But it's not quite what it is. It talks about wolves, and it references Ragnarok.
Yeah, so Dean uses a computer to pull up this myth, right? And
of course.
And Sam calls Dean and to tell him about Garth and Bess. And Dean tells Sam about Ragnarok and the wolf Fenris killing Odin. But y'all met Odin in season 519, Hammer of the Gods. And in that episode, he said, talking about Ragnarok, there's no Armageddon. Everybody knows when the world comes to an end, the great serpent, Jormungandr, rises up and I myself will be eaten by a big wolf. But he was killed by Lucifer during that episode. So then Dean starts talking about, it's like, look, apparently he found this on his computer that there are cults that consider Fenris a wolf deity. So Fenris is the wolf that is supposed to eat Odin. Right. And they call themselves the Maw of Fenris. And so Sam's like, what? A cult of werewolves? That's just crazy. And Dean's like, no, this is not just a Bible story and it's not just a myth. It's a plan, right? It's how we're going to get our total werewolf domination. Which also sounds like a wrestling thing, right? Like, come to this Sunday, we will have complete and total werewolf domination and human extinction, right? And the thing is that the Maw of Fenris isn't real. So we're going to talk about what is real, and it's lore.
It's time for lore?
It's time for lore. All right, so the Maw of Fenris is supposed to be a cult of werewolves who are, and you can tell by the ones in here, they're kind of overly testosterone people who want to bring on the end of the world. Right. And if you DuckDuckGo that, what you're not going to get is articles about that. What you are going to get is articles about how Norse mythology is used in white supremacy gangs. So I just want to talk a little bit about that because, as always, Nazis are stupid and they're completely wrong in how they relate these things. So I had a bad day and I just want to yell at some Nazis. Okay, so some examples of Nazi shitbags who have used Norse symbolism and their bullshit. So we have Peyton Gendron, who was a mass shooter at the Tops grocery store in Buffalo, New York. The terrorist who attacked a summer camp in Norway, who named his guns after Norse gods. The Christchurch, New Zealand mass shooter. The God loot motherfucker, damn it. The video's going again.
I know, I just saw it. Like there's a thumbs up in the middle of your Nazi talk.
Yeah, there's a Nazi shitbags. Okay, where are you plugged in? I'm like, how many things can I unplug?
El gato.
El gato. Yeah.
It's back.
Okay.
You're back.
All right, where was it? All right. You ready?
Yep.
Okay. So, some examples of Nazi shitbags who have used Norse symbolism in their bullshit. Peyton Gendron, who is the mass shooter at the Tops grocery store in Buffalo, New York. The terrorist who attacked a summer camp in Norway, who named his guns after Norse gods. The Christchurch, New Zealand mass shooter. the Virginia prisoner who stabbed another inmate 68 times for not taking their blot ceremony seriously enough. In the early 2000s in Indiana, a racist skinhead group called the Vinlander Social Club, who identified as Odinists, formed in Indiana, and they grew to be one of the largest racist skinhead groups in the country. Mostly died out by the mid-2010s, but they remain entrenched in the prison system. So, why are they dumb? Besides, there are obvious reasons they were dumb.
Besides the obvious, yes.
So the mixture of white supremacy and European paganism actually goes back to the mid-19th century, as disorganized European states search for national identity and reach back to their heritage, but not in an accurate way at all. This is largely from Dorothy Kim's Time article, "White supremacists have weaponized an imaginary Viking past. It's time to reclaim the real history." And the other sources are in the show notes. So really kind of the basic premise of this, of my argument here and why Nazis are stupid at this point, is Nazis like symbolism, right? And these supremacist groups like to take on these traditions and think they're using them as an excuse to say that their bullshit is on point and real. But they're basing it on things that weren't true to begin with, right? Because when most of this history was being written, we didn't have the level of science and archaeology and other things. This was just being made up for the most part, right? So in the 19th century, Romantic German nationalism evolved into the Volkisch movement, which I think we've talked about somewhat on this show. But basically that was historical narratives that supported a white German nation state. And they rewrote a lot of history and drew from folklore like the Brothers Grimm, medieval epics, and a commitment to just general supremacy. But you're pulling your history from folk tales, maybe not necessarily going to be that accurate. Then scholars from the late 19th and early 20th centuries both used and reinforced this racialized conception of the medieval past. A pivotal work in this was, oh boy, this is a good name, Wilhelm Grunbach's multi-volume Volkert in Olditern. I think that was perfect, whatever language that was. I think it was ancient Germanic and the cultures of the Teutons. And that envisioned an ancient Germanic lineage, which never existed, right? As the Third Reich loomed on the horizon, German scholars like Gustav Neckel and Bernhard Kummer were spinning narratives that blamed socialism, Jews, and class revolutions for what they deemed the decline of a noble Germanic race, one they believed descended from a proud Viking legacy. Which is very interesting because we don't often associate Vikings with Germany. I don't, at least.
No, it's more Scandinavian.
Typically. And another notable figure, Otto Herfler, drew on the ideas of Grunbach to explore the concept of Mörnerbünde, which Stephanie von Schleunerbein describes as all male warrior associations in so-called primitive societies. Herfler's interpretation of these warrior brotherhoods became a twisted lens through which to view the past and present Germanic identity, fueling the ideologies of notorious Nazi groups like the SS. After World War II, the ideas, instead of going away like they should have, experienced a disturbing resurgence in certain circles. Various far-right neo-pagan groups, like the Scandinavian Nordic resistance movement, known for their neo-Nazi violence, began to embrace these narratives. Grunbach's extensive work, now translated and readily accessible online, alongside the writings of his contemporaries, continues to influence far-right extremists across Europe and North America today. Criminologist and civil rights attorney Dr. Brian Levin also notes, this kind of Nordic mythology fits in well with groups who talk about conquering and being a warrior for your cause and your homeland and your race. So it was really bastardized and then exploited in a new toxic venom, Levin said. And so, to be clear, not all followers of Norse paganisms are Nazi bastards. And also, not all Nazi bastards are Odinists. But for those of you who are, may you never reach Valhalla. May you instead rot in Nostrand, which is Corpse Shore, and that is the area of the underworld reserved for cowardly murderers and liars to wade into the poison until the end of the world of Ragnarok, when the wolf comes and noms on Odin.
Noms.
Nom, nom. So that was my rant at why Nazis are dumb. But I think you see, I kind of feel like there was parts of this that were being hinted at in this episode, just because of the nature of the creepy cousins.
It's a perception of otherness and a domination, like that kind of concept. I saw that that implication here.
Yeah, but
and tied to their religion, which I'm not saying it's always the case, but it is.
Yeah, another reason why Odinism tends to be popular among white supremacists is that when you're in prison, you can get religious exceptions for things. So you have to have a religion.
So, well, as someone that just happens to be half Norwegian, I was really into like studying Norse mythology when I was younger. And then I realized, just because I thought it was interesting. And then I realized that there was this connotation. I'm like, no, I'm fucking Catholic. Hold on. Like, I'm Italian Catholic. It has nothing to do with any of this. I just think it's interesting.
It's interesting, and it's fuck you for taking, like, the same reason I get mad, with people, I don't know. Like, don't take away.
But it's just interesting.
Paganism is my thing. Stop it. Get away from my stuff, you Nazi bastards. Nobody likes you. Go away. You don't get to have cool things.
Can't sit with us.
You don't get to have the good things. No. Anyways, so I really just wanted that explanation. The other option for today was I was going to read a children's story of Ragnarok.
Oh.
And I was in this mood instead. I promise one day I'll read you guys a children's story. I promise. So
I'm excited.
Yep.
Are you going to do voices?
Probably. I do them anyways. So you
can't, you do, so I'm making sure.
All right. So on that note, so Dean has, just to read where we're at, Dean has figured out that they are using Ragnarok as a human extinction plan, and he now is all gung-ho to take down Reverend Jim.
Yeah, he's going to go after Jim, and Sam has got to go find Garth. But Sam gets knocked the fuck out with a tire iron by one of the creepy cousins. Of course. And this Reverend has now come into the church because he was going to go work on writing his sermon, because they're not, anyways, whatever, still doesn't make sense. But he can smell and hear the heartbeat of Dean. And Dean's pointing a gun at him.
He does say something really interesting, that after all of this time, you still get nervous.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a cool, like, I don't know, it was a cool thing, but...
Well, it's a very human conversation thing about fear and blah, blah, blah they had. But yeah, and Dean's like, look, I read all about your fucking plan. And Reverend's like, there is no plan. That was generations ago. I don't buy into the hate and anger belief structure. And especially since I've taken over the church, that's not what we do.
I eradicated it. He fixed it. He just came in and he fixed all these generations of just, hatred and things that they had. Reverend Jim came in and just knocked that right out.
Squashed it. Done. And Dean's like, well, then WTF about fucking Sheriff Pat just tried to fucking kill us. And the Reverend is very surprised and seems legit surprised. And Dean's like, hold on. Are you actually surprised? Let me see your bullet. Not in a dirty way. And so he looks at the bullet that the Reverend is wearing around his neck, and it's blank. So it does not say Ragnarok.
How long do you think it took them to carve shit into those bullets? And also, how many bullets did they have to do? Like, when they tried to spell Ragnarok, but they ran out of room, it was like Ragnarok. So much just like, it's like rock written around the side.
Well, Reverend's kind of like, oh, we see kind of like he kind of seems to think he knows something's going on. And he's like, the maw is dead, but... Wait, Garth and Bess are missing too? Oh, shit.
Uh-oh.
So we cut to Garth and Bess chained to farm equipment in a barn.
And then these poor actors have the unfortunate job of hauling a dead-wig Padalecki across the room.
They do have to drag a ragdoll Padalecki and chain him up to another farm implement.
I can imagine that chiropractor visit afterwards. What did you do? I lifted a padalecki.
I lifted a padalecki. Is that like an injury report?
That is your injury. There is a code, like an insurance code for padalecki lifting.
Okay.
So yeah, then we go to
now good old Joy's there.
Joy is a cunt.
That's the thing. Joy is a cunt. Yeah.
Actually, no, she's a bitch. Pun intended.
Yeah. There you go. So she's like basically just like slaps Bess and's like, by the way, I'm not your fucking mom. Like, what the hell?
What is that's where I was just like, you're so okay.
Mean. And Garth's like, if you're gonna hurt anybody, hurt me. She's like, that's cute, but I'm gonna hurt her and him, pointing to Sam, and especially you, because you brought the fucking hunter here. So get ready for this. And Garth is apologizing and blah blah blah. So Garth is getting punched by Joy, and it refers to Bess as her stepdaughter because Joy is the last of her bloodline.
And so I'm just kind of like, well, so is this just like all like, could you not have your own kids, Joy? Like, is this just all like a woman who's just pissed off because she couldn't breed? Like, I don't understand really what the fuck your problem, Joy, is. Like, ugh, fucking Joy. Well,
I guess it's because she expected her brother to carry the bloodline,
those
and then he got killed.
In there? Like, aren't they the bloodline? Who are those cousins?
Very unclear. Very unclear. Who are the cousins?
I don't think
Where do they come from?
You understand what bloodline is, Joy.
No, she doesn't. And because her little brother Charlie was killed by a hunter, and her husband just counseled patience, and had this whole like new direction for the church about coexistence and peace, but instead of dominance. But Charlie's murder reminded her of her daddy's sermons. As long as there's a man, there can be no peace because man destroys.
And she is sick of it. And, true. I get that. Like, but this is perhaps not the right solution, Miss Joy.
Probably not. Well, Dean is now sneaking around on the property and killing werewolves. So that's what's happening now. Sam's like, oh, yeah, I get it. Why coexist when you can rule? So he's just going to goad her, I guess. And she's like, my husband was bitten and not born. And so he holds on to his humanity. So his claws will start Ragnarok. I just like saying it that way. But basically, her whole thing is like, this was a blessing because what we're going to do is we're going to she's like, I'm going to kill Bess. And then we're going to pin the murder on Sam and Dean so that the Reverend will blame Sam and Dean. He won't turn a cheek again after his wife was killed by hunters. He's definitely going to freak the fuck out and do the Ragnarok thing.
Yep. And then she gets to say, killing you gives me no joy.
I know. I was dying when she said that. I'm like, oh, okay. Thanks, writers. I appreciate that. But yeah, Garth is starting to wolf out though, because he's upset that Bess is about to get murdered in front of him, which is reasonable for him to get upset about. But Sam does a crazy kung fu kick thing.
Joy makes a mistake in putting her gun above Sam's very long legs.
Well, yes, but it's an impressively
like. And it was an impressive long kick that just like cha-cha.
Yeah, and she starts to wolf out, but Dean has been able to sneak in. Except he does get jumped, but he stabs the wolf. It's a whole thing. But when he killed the wolf outside, he stole their jacket so he could like sneak around.
Smart.
Good job, Dean. And he is able to shoot Joy.
Yeah, they basically have like a duel.
Mini duel. He wins. So back at the wolf house. I don't know.
The wolf house.
The wolf house. Sam and Garth have their goodbyes and they hug while Bess and Reverend Jim are sitting there like very distraught at the table, rightfully so. And Garth and Dean have their moment. And Dean tells Garth that the Reverend seems like a good man. And then Garth's like, yes, but you were also right that things were not all good here. Because Joy was a psychopath. But he's really upset that he screwed up because first Kevin and now this.
Yeah, and Garth really wants to take, and he is really taking the blame for Kevin.
Very much so.
Fuck you, Dean, because that's also your fault. And Dean's just like, no, like, Garth is my fault. I mean, Kevin's my fault.
Kevin's my fault. Yeah. It's a fucking martyr off here. But then Garth's like, fine, look, what do you think about me with using my wolf mojo as an advantage? Can I go hunt with you? Kevin was our friend, and I want to make things right. I don't want to leave things that way. I shouldn't have left. Dean comes around and references back to something from the beginning of this episode. He's like, you said it. Who cares where happiness comes from? We're all a little weird and all a little wacky, some more than others. And if it works, it works.
Just a little weird, a little wacky. Yeah.
A little weird, a little wacky.
Hug me.
Oh, and then they get a hug. Oh.
So they hug, and then we cut to Dean and Sam and Baby. And Dean is taking Sam to his car.
Yeah. And Sam's like, I'll send you a postcard. And so Dean's like, no, let's talk. We went our separate ways because I was messed up with Kevin being dead. And I don't know, it just doesn't seem right. What's right is, and the playbook's changed. And we just, it's just he just kind of talks in circles. It's very awkward and weird. And but when they're together, it's all crappy, but we split the crappiness when we're together. And Sam's like, yeah, this is kind of broken. Not in a good way. And Dean's like, yeah, I'm not saying it's not broken, but I don't know, maybe we get a couple wins on the board.
And Sam's just like, that's not going to fix us. And I can't trust you because you basically let somebody come inside of me without my consent.
Ew.
And Dean's like, well, way, but whatever. But
I was like, whoa.
Well, I mean, he left some grace in there, but I mean, really, his trust has been so violent. And see, if he was my brother, I mean, you can. But I also get it because, I've had, he's your brother, so he's gonna be like
family.
We're gonna hunt together again, but we're not gonna be brothers.
Yeah. And Sam's like, well, it's not a cure-all to say we're family. And they're like, we'll work together. We can work together, but we won't be brothers. I don't understand. How does that work?
I don't understand. He also says those are my terms, and he doesn't give any terms. And so basically, I think the idea...
But what's the definition?
Is that they're just going to be business partners.
Yeah, but that doesn't work.
It never works, and they always... Sam and Dean fighting, which I understand is most of the show, is just so obnoxious. I just want them to get along, because it's just easier. Fight with other people! No enemies but the state! Alright. So, now that whininess is done, do you have people to tell us about who acted in this thing?
I do.
Casting couch. It's the casting couch. Were they on that show that time with that guy? La 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 la.
I have a pretty decent little casting list here. It was a pretty good cast. I say they're all, generally speaking, we get some really strong casts. But this week's casting couch, Bess Myers was played by Sarah Smith, and we'll see her again. Funny, she's been in episodes of Big Wolf on Campus and Vampire High. It's not amusing. As well as Smallville, Human Target, and Supergirl a handful of times. She had a bit part in the Percy Jackson the Olympians movie. She has been ongoing character, she was ongoing character named Justine in the Hallmark series Cedar Cove, plus a ton of other Hallmark movies, and then was Ginger in the film Bad Times at El Royale. Our Reverend Jim Myers is played by Tom Butler. He's been on a lot of stuff, episodes of Highlander, X-Files, Stargate, Smallville, Painkiller Jane multiple times, Fringe, Cedar Cove a bunch of times also, which is kind of interesting. The Flash, Chesapeake Shores a bunch of times, Loudermilk, as we've kind of known for more recently, and Virgin River a few times. He was Dr. Glenn Cliff in Ernest Rides Again, feeling your 90s flashback moment. He was Phil in Life Size, which was a Lindsay Lohan and Tyra Banks movie in the 90s. Agent Kelly and Josie and the Pussycats, Dr. Campbell in Freddy vs. Jason, Bob in Miracle, a Colonel in Flight 93, a Captain in Snakes on a Plane, Crane in Codename The Cleaner, the President in the film Shooter, WSU University President in 50 Shades of Grey, Police Captain in Tomorrowland, and the Vice Chairman Walters in Sonic the Hedgehog 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And a bunch of Hallmark movies. So a lot of pretty big career. Joy Myers was played by Eve Gordon. She's been in episodes of, her career goes back 80s and 90s. So Cosby Show, Murphy Brown, Ellen, Party of Five, Felicity a bunch of times, Veronica Mars, House, Grey's Anatomy, 2.5 Men, ER, Medium, Ghost Whisperer, American Horror Story a handful of times, Mad Men, Scandal, Big Little Lies, and Walking Dead. She was Diane in Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, the school counselor in The Grudge 2, and regular reoccurring character of Connie in Don't Trust the Bitch in Apartment 23.
Yay!
Yes. And then our Sheriff Pat was played by Matt Hamilton. And he's been in episodes of Arrow, Turner and Hooch, a bunch, the TV show, and then a lot of Hallmark as well. Russ, which is one of our creepy cousins, played by Adam Lullisher, and he was Mr. Muggs in Riverdale. It was only a couple episodes, but it was towards the end, so it's kind of a big deal. But was also in episodes of Batwoman, Travelers, Arrow, Once Upon a Time, Fringe, and Smallville. And then just kind of, he's done a lot of like production work. He was a production assistant on the TV series Blockbuster, which was out last year. I kind of liked it. And then Joba, the other creepy cousin, was played by Peter Benson. He's done episodes of Smallville, 4400, Arrow. He was a recurring character on Hell on Wheels. He's on The Prodigal Son. He was in the Smokin' Aces 2 and has done a bunch of Hallmark too. But interesting from him and his career is that he's actually done quite a bit of directing of Hallmark movies and has done a lot of motion capture work for animation. So
yeah, that is interesting.
See it a lot. So there we go.
Cool. All right. So what did you think about our Welcome Back Garth episode?
I was very happy because I feel like the more like the more you watch and like or learn about like DJ Qualls and the character of Garth, the more you like Garth. That's just all there is to it. So I feel like I was very excited to see this character back. I do like the ongoing theme of acknowledging that not all monsters are bad.
I think that was a very important theme. But what do you think of Garth being a werewolf?
Mixed feelings, because it depends on how accepting our Winchesters will be in the long run of his monsteriness.
Yep. Well, some monsters were born that way, but also he didn't ask to be bitten.
He didn't. And that's why they've kind of let things slide before if they've found people that are like, oh, well, it's not really your fault.
And he's not eating people. He's only eating cow.
Yeah. Which he could just be going to the fucking butcher shop apparently for.
I don't understand why he's just not going to the. I think it was a hunt thing, right? It's just getting your.
I guess.
And that way you get through your instincts, and hunting in the supermarket's not the same as hunting a cow that can't run away. I guess.
Probably not. He's chasing the styrofoam tray is not nearly as exciting
as chasing a cow.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, so no, I thought it was I liked the, I actually would find other than the gaps that we freaking, destroyed talking about, I thought it was an interesting episode too. I liked the story. Yeah,
no, I think it was a pleasant episode.
Other than this conversation at the end that made no fucking sense about we're going to work together but not be brothers. I don't know.
Dean and Sam bullshit. Sometimes it's just there. We take it with the show. All right. I think on that note, cheers, Dirk.
Cheers, bitch.
Devil's Trap Podcast is a Don't Get It production. Meow.
Devil's Trap Podcast is part of the Ship It Studios Podcast Network. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Devil's Trap Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at Devil's Trap Podcast, Twitter at Devil's Trap Pod, or you can email us at devilstrap@devilstrappodcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe, leave reviews, and share with all your friends. We're at all your favorite podcast outlets and at devilstrappodcast.com. I'm Babe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.